And we're live.
The stream
Welcome
is
back.
live.
Yeah. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, mate. When was the last time we actually spoke? Was it
I
in
feel like-
Nashville?
No, well, in person maybe, but I feel like we did one of these. I did a random live stream with you I was like, hey, let's go live. You know, like sometimes I just like to do it, but this holiday season, I was like, instead of doing like I usually do a year-end show, I was like, instead of that, I'll just do a series of live streams with people. And then I thought it'd be cool because my theory originally was like, oh, like sometimes people get lonely or like sad during the holidays. And if they don't have anybody, hey, you can come and like hang out with us
Just
and
hang out,
comment and like ask questions and you can be part of the show or whatever. And not that many people have been commenting. And so I don't know. I mean, it says supposedly people are watching. Like right now it says there's 4 people watching, supposedly. Like, and then on Saturday I had like 30 people watching, which I thought was really great. And then I told somebody that and like, yeah, I heard this live stream the other day had like 2 million people watch. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm not that good, but
I forgot all about those numbers and figures. We can get into that if you want.
yeah, well, it's depressing because I think like you start out and you get some decent, you get 30 people like that's better than 0. It's when you start and then you build and then you get some episodes or interviews or live streams or whatever get big, bigger numbers and you start to see it grow and you get subscribers grow and it gets exciting. And then I feel like you kind of like, at least for me, I've reached a point where I'm like, okay, it's kind of like plateauing or almost like going down.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not the only one that feels that way. I feel like it's a lot of other, like you mentioned things and other people. And I think it's just because in my theory is not that we've gotten worse. It's just, there's so much content and so many new podcasts popping up. It's just hard to keep track and keep up with it. So
the whole playing field's just changing all the time and getting your stuff in front of people. It's just harder and harder, man. I don't know. I don't want to play that game, but I feel you have to a certain extent. I mean, some of the stuff that I listened to the chat you did with Darren, and that guy is super smart, and I love hearing him chat about everything. And he really knows that whole network of how all that works. He's great.
The game, yeah, like getting in with a publicist and all that. But it's just interesting because I just think even just basic social media things, like, like 5-10 years ago, I would post a picture of just me with my girlfriend or like me on a vacation, and it would, and it would get a lot more likes or whatever than it does now. So I don't know if that's just because I'm getting older and people don't care about my stuff anymore, but I feel like it's just there's so many pages and friends and things that people follow, not just podcasts, but also, just in general social media. It's just hard to, like, everyone's vying for your attention, like everyone. And I think 5 or 10 years ago, even not every business or person had social media. And then you got, there's like new things like Threads and all these other things popping up. And yeah.
Have you migrated to Blue Sky yet?
What's that? Oh yeah, the Blue Sky. I went on that one. I was just like, I don't get this. I don't know. So yeah, it's hard to keep straight. And then I'm just like, so do I post the same thing on like 5 different social media, or do I change it, or I don't know what I'm doing. And I try to watch videos on that stuff. I had a social media guy on my show to kind of pick his brain, but ultimately, like, I'm starting to lose interest in playing, like you said, playing the game basically is like what it is with the social media. And I don't even think Darren really plays the social media stuff as much, or the YouTube. Like, he doesn't really focus on his thumbnails or anything. Like, he's just mostly, I want to get this interview. And then his production is kind of bare bones. I mean, he's got a great theme song, but he does a great job. He does. And it's just like, it's sad that a guy like that who's been doing it so long. That's what I was talking about last night, was like, why are you not on like Entertainment Tonight or Yahoo Entertainment or something bigger? So I don't know. It's
I mean, Darren's stuff, he asks great questions. His prep's always awesome. I think the difference between his and ours, I'll say hi to Harry, or I know he just posted some comments.
Yeah.
Just then. Absolute legend. Lovely bloke. I shall hopefully be seeing him soon. I saw him a couple of weeks ago. He popped into our video shop. So yeah, I'll give him a shout out. A great dude. But yeah, Darren's stuff, I think the difference between his podcasts and our podcast, they're usually quite short form, like 15 minutes.
Yeah. Because some of those guests are like, they're doing junkets. And so they're like, you get 10 or 15, that's all he gets. And then although sometimes I feel like it's the same guest, and he's so used to the short form that he just does 15-20 minutes and then calls it.
Yeah. It's perhaps a little easier for people to digest, but it depends how you listen to a podcast, whether you're in the car or driving and all that kind of thing. If you're just bouncing from one thing to the next while you sat at the PC or something. So just
Right.
different things.
Well, and I think sometimes for me, it's like, it's better to do longer because then I could get a story, I could get a blabbermouth article, and I have a better chance of doing that. The more that I can talk to them, the more that they open up. And then I don't know that people necessarily listen to the whole thing. Maybe they just fast forward to something. But I mean, I feel like the longer ones don't get less views than the shorter ones. So, I mean, I don't look at this like how long people are listening. Usually it's not the entire length of the show anyways, but
yeah, that'll bring you down even more. When you it's like, especially if you're a musician and you can track out, if you're like, on my YouTube channel, you could see if I've got like music videos or something up there and people are listening for like 20 seconds. I'm like, you can get to the chorus.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is depressing. Yeah, because you would think that people at least have the attention span to listen to the full song. If it's one song, I mean, unless it's just like some sort of like, Opus November Rain kind of like 10-minute thing. Maybe they don't want to listen to the whole thing, but yeah, that's crazy.
So how's things with you in general? Everything good?
Yeah, everything's great. It's just the whole podcast thing is kind of depressing. So I think it's getting to the point where I'm like, okay, I got to find something else to do for 2025 or, something else to like focus. Like, that's what I like what you did. Cause you were doing 2 podcasts a week and now you've dialed it down to 1.
Yeah. I was doing 2 for like the first, I don't know, 2.5 years or something like that. Which I look back now and that was just crazy because I spend far too much time editing. The editing time is what takes most for me. Then I dialed it down to 1 episode a week, and going back to figures and stuff, the actual statistics didn't change that much. I was like, oh, this is cool. But then when I hit 300, I thought I want to do this for the long haul. But if I keep trying to do that, I'm breaking one of the golden rules of podcasting where they say you've got to keep it consistent on the same day, same time, and all that kind of thing, which I did. But I thought I want to enjoy this. I want to keep this going a long time. So I just want to speak to people who I want to speak to rather than constantly chasing. I've got to get a show out this Friday. I've got to get one out. So who can I speak to? So now I'm at just the point where I just want to enjoy it. And hopefully that comes across in the conversations as well. So I don't know how you've changed yours in the last 6 months and stuff like that. You've kind of focusing on different guests, or are you doing the same thing? People you're interested in?
Yeah, I think it's always just been people I've been interested in. I think I feel like with some of I like having a balance, I guess, because if I do too many musicians or too many entertainers, I start to get just bored with it. And I just feel like, oh, I'm dealing the same. And then if I do too many serious, like doctors, scientists, authors, and too many like really in-depth intellectual things, then I get too overwhelmed with that. So I like having the balance. Like I'll do one, I was like, wow, that was a really heavy, intense podcast. And then I want to have on like just a fun rock star or comedian and just shoot the shit. And then it's a nice balance for me. So I like that. I don't know if that is necessarily what my audience wants. And like Adiko always tells me, like, you need to separate your channels. And I'm like, well, I think it's too late for that. So I don't know. Like, I mean, I feel like there's guys like Joe Rogan and stuff, like his stuff is all over the place and people seem to, it's fine. So I think, I think my strategy for 2025 is going to be to try to focus on something else, not give up on the podcast, just kind of dial it back to maybe 1 a week or so. I mean, I say this now, I don't know if I get a bunch of amazing offers, like I'll dive right into those and make it the focus. But lately it's just been like, I'm not getting the publicity emails like that I used to, I'm not getting the offers.
It has changed a lot, mate. I haven't really noticed that. It went really quiet this year. It's really
I mean, I've reached out to tons of people and they're just not saying yes. So I feel like I just need a different strategy. So I'm going to try to do a different strategy, try to focus on something else. And then hopefully if that other thing grows, then that will be kind of a back door into guests for the podcast. And I don't want to reveal too much and I don't even know exactly what I'm going to do, but that's kind of the plan. And so hopefully it'll make sense. Harry had a question. Let's see. What question for both? Who are the favorite guests I've had on my pod? I mean, God, it's so funny because like it would change so much. But I think at the beginning it was just so cool to get the guys that that I had posters of on my walls, like John Corabi and the guys from Warrant and Richie Kotzen and like Steve Stevens and all those guys. Like, I mean, I was really into like you had Robbie Crane from Vince Neil Band. I tried to get him, but
I think we were scheduled to have him more or less the same week. And it wasn't like he was promoting anything. I think we both reached out at a very similar time.
He just picked yours. So, I mean, those ones, like, I mean, having like the David Duchovny was really cool. And like Mark Norman kind of, I don't know how I got Mark Norman before he was like too big. And of course now he's like all over Rogan and stuff. He's huge. But some of those guys aren't even my favorite. Like some of my favorites are just, like you have been really like, you're fun. Like Darren, all the people that I've met that I've kind of become more friends with. Like, I think those are some of my favorites too. It's hard to say like, all-time favorites. Like there's just so many good ones, but I don't know. What about you? What do you think?
I always have a few good ones. I mean, I always say there's a guy called Matt Willis from the band Busted. They're not that well known in America, but they're like huge in the UK, but they're known in America for writing Year 3000 for the Jonas Brothers. They wrote that song. And I'm a big fan of Matt. He's the bass player. I like his, just the way he comes across. He's got a lot of humility and stuff like that. And he's got lots of drug issues and stuff in the past, overcome all that. And he's really positive and stuff. And it was one of those interviews, you probably had similar ones where you go into it and you're like, I hope it's going to be this way. And it was. And a little bit better as well.
Yeah.
So they're always the best ones. And then I think another one, people say, which episode should I listen to if I'm going to go in to your podcast? There's so many episodes to choose from. And I tend to direct them to I think you've had him on your show, but Wednesday 13 was great for me. It was awesome. I'm like really strategic in my questions. Like I have them everything planned out, but I probably asked like 3 questions and he just went off on a tangent. It was really comfortable, really flowed really well. So that was a good one. It was kind of a combination of everything I like to do on the podcast. It was 50% music, 50% films. So it was like,
okay.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah. I love those ones. Like I just thought of another, like the Bret Michaels guitar player, Pete. I've had him on a couple times. He's actually going to be on the live stream too on Monday.
Sweet, man.
So yeah, I love talking with him. Like he's just easy to talk to. And I feel like it's natural because we'll talk music and he'll have good stories about music and we can talk music stuff. We can also talk like TV and film and just like social issues and stuff and just stuff that's going on in the world. And he's like a thinker. Like I like his Facebook. He'll post these things. He just posts something on Facebook about the drones and stuff, like stuff that's going on in the world.
Right.
And I remember like when that whole, I always forget to ask him about that. What was that musician, Oliver Anthony? He had a lot of posts about, he had a real strong opinion about that guy. Cause he, the guy came from nowhere. And then the guy was like, had this huge hit, but then he kind of didn't want the fame. And Pete had some opinions about that. So he always had, I like people with strong opinions, I think are good. Like even like Don Dokken is honestly like, I'm not even a huge Dokken fan, but he was a great guest because he didn't hold back. And he just, he'd talk shit and you're just like, and it was entertaining and people love that episode. I think that's one of my most, if not my most popular episode.
Really? How long ago was that? I remember you having him on, but time's going so fast. I can't remember.
It was like a year ago. Yeah. That episode, I mean, that got me so many subscribers between the full episode and some of the clips. They went crazy. They went viral in a way. For me, it was like a viral, enough views, but yeah, like I think those guys like Ted Nugent, he's kind of a wild man and I know people disagree with his politics and stuff, but he is a good guest. He's a great because he doesn't hold back and he just says what he thinks, and it's never the same.
And the energy's there. The energy's there straight away, I would imagine. Yeah,
it's big, and it's not this. I don't like when you listen to because I do research, so I'll listen to other interviews, and then if they do my show and they tell the same stories, I'm like, I've already heard this story. I want something new. That's and especially. And so like Ted Nugent, Don Dokken, those guys, like they have so many stories and they have so many quips and just comments. Like, I feel like it's never the same. Like some of it is the same. I'm sure they say some of the same things. But
sometimes they go into like autopilot all of a sudden.
Yeah. Some of those guests, like it's always like, you can't get original things out of them. Like, I feel like they just have certain stories that they're programmed in.
Yeah.
And that's it. And those are hard, but I mean, yeah, I mean, as long as people are cool, I always usually have a good time. Like I usually leave, even if it's a live stream or a full interview or 20-minute interview or 2-hour interview, I usually leave and I'm energized. Like I'm like, oh, it was so fun. Usually, if I did my job and the guest was open, it should feel like that, and I'm assuming it feels that way for the guest as well.
I hope so. Yeah, you have to hope that afterwards. Yeah, definitely.
But they're having fun. I mean, sometimes maybe for them it's a little bit draining to tell the same things, but usually that's why I try to ask different questions. I don't try to ask this, like I'll listen. Okay, they've been asked about this a million times. Don't ask about this. Don't ask about that. And then I try to think of like, what have they not been asked? And that's the hard thing with musicians sometimes, because I'm like, I feel like they've been asked and I feel like sometimes I'm asking the same question. So I got to get creative. And that's why I think sometimes, like with Pete, I'll ask him things non-musical, because that's kind of sometimes more interesting.
Where does Pete live? Where's he based?
Virginia.
All right, cool, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you've had him on, but he's a great guest, and he has stories about, because, being the guitar player for Bret Michaels. I mean, Bret Michaels has played, Bret Michaels does so many shows, and they play with everybody. They play with Vince Neil. They play with Rat. He had stories about Great White. He was telling me the other day, and what was it? It's like story with Jack Russell and was it Don Dokken? And I mean, he just had so many great stories. It was hilarious.
I've reached out to him a few times. I should try him again, I think, because he's always doing something new. Because when was his book? I know he's had a book in the past, hasn't he? He's not got a new one or anything, has he?
No, but I mean, he's usually pretty open. I mean, you could probably just hit him up on Facebook. I mean, you can go through the publicist if you want. I don't know if he's using one right now because he doesn't have anything major to promote. But yeah, he'd probably do it. Let's see. Oh, Harry's saying he loved the Rob Watt. Yeah, I like that guy. You got me into his music. Like, I think for some reason I kind of like was hesitant to really get into it. And then I finally did, and I pulled the trigger. I was like, okay, yeah, this is really good stuff. And then I liked your guys's, the old band, Teenage
Casket Company. Yeah. You got it.
That was good stuff. Because it is kind of funny, because it's kind of like that in between, like pop punk, pop metal. And I love both of those. So for me, it worked. But I know for fans who are very true to either genre, they don't want to mix that combination.
Exactly, man. That's the problem we had. Yeah. We came out at this weird time. Like, we love Danger, we love Trickster, we love Bon Jovi, but if we do that, there ain't going to be nobody at these gigs. But we also like Lit, we also like Marvelous 3. So let's kind of combine the two. So yeah, it curveballed a few people, but the fans we got from it stuck around to this day. So that was awesome.
That's great. Cool. And you guys still do some shows occasionally, right?
We did we split up in, let me get this right. I think we split up in like 2016. Somebody will probably tell me that's wrong. But then we did a reunion show last year, which was fantastic to play again. Because it was me who broke up the band. I was like, let's stop before we all fall out. Because that was what happened. If you can't, I think anyone who's been in a band, when things start to go stale and you try and hold onto it, you like go to rehearsal and everybody's getting on everybody's nerves. I'm like, let's stop now while we're still friends. And if we want to come back to it later on, we can do. So yeah, we all stayed friends. Probably became better friends after it.
Yeah.
And it was like,
and Rob's other band, the Midnight City, and then that really took off, right?
Yeah,
that did better than Teenage Casket Company.
Oh yeah, because he did what we just said. He just stayed true to one specific style. He was like a story I've told a million times, and I'll tell it a million times again. But the night the band played their final show, we went out for a drink afterwards, and Rob got very drunk, and he was like, I'm sick of trying to, going back to what we said earlier, play the game. It's like, when we started this band, I cut my hair, started writing songs a slightly different way, similar but slightly different, to try and fit in with modern stuff. He says, I'm tired of doing that. So he said, I want to put a band together with 5 dudes, long blonde hair, and just play stuff straight from 1988. And that's what he did. And straight through the roof. It just took off so well. I mean, you're obviously limited to your audience. It's never going to be mainstream. But if you focus on that specific audience where there is people who love that music, and if you can write songs as well as he does, then you can't not succeed with it. And yeah, it's just gone from strength to strength, really. So fair play to him. Yeah. I bounce from one thing to another. I'm like, oh, that looks cool. I'll try a little bit of that.
Yeah. So tell me what you're doing now, because I know you're doing the Poison tribute band, and then I thought I saw something on your Instagram. What is it, like Let It Loose or something? Was that just a one-off gig, or is that another side project?
Yeah, that's another band. So Let Loose were a band that came out in the 90s in the UK all around. It was 1994. They had a huge hit in the UK. It got to number 2 in the UK charts. One of the biggest songs of the year. Sold like over, I think it was like over 500,000 copies in the UK, like physical copies before downloads and all that kind of thing.
Wow.
So yeah, it got to number 2. It's like in the charts for most of the year. So a massive hit. Then they had a bunch of songs after that. So they were a pretty big band, but they kind of got lumped in with the whole boy band stuff, which was going around at the time, even though they played instruments. It was just sign of the times, really. If they'd have come out 5 years earlier, they'd have been like In Excess or something. So I think the best comparison I could give them, which you could relate to, would probably be like Savage Garden, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so
I remember
like
that.
just really good like pop rock tunes. So yeah, they were around for a few years, then they split up. They reformed. I got to know the singer in the mid 2000s, and we did some stuff back then. Then it kind of fizzled off again, but then last year they reformed again, and so I was straight on the phone, say, if you need a bass player, let me know. So yeah, we've been doing stuff all this year, just doing all like the holiday parks and reunion gigs and things like that. All like you probably have them in the States, but like you have like 90s weekends and 80s festivals and all that kind of stuff. We're all kind of like the nostalgia acts.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Yeah, so yeah, we're doing that now. So yeah, it's cool. We're playing New Year's Eve in London, which should be cool. And yeah, a bunch of gigs next year. So yeah, anybody in the US, I don't know if there's many people in America who've heard of them, but if you type in Let Loose Crazy for You, it's just great pop rock stuff. And they've got a song called 17 as well. Which
really?
I'll say it's better than the Winger song.
Well, that's a pretty good gig then, huh?
Yeah, it's cool, man. It's nice because they came out in the 90s during all that boy band hysteria and hype. They had like a really big fan base back then, and
they got a lot of hits.
Yeah, they've all grown up and still come out to the shows and stuff. So yeah,
that's awesome.
It's just a lot of fun. So yeah,
I wonder why they didn't have any hits in the US. I'm always fascinated by that. Like, why is this band big in this country, and not like why, especially with UK and US, it's the same language. Yeah. So it's not, I get if it's like Germany and Japan is not going to have the same stuff, but yeah, UK and US, like sometimes it's the same, and sometimes bands are huge in one or the other, and not, and yeah, it's just interesting.
I think it's always been, it's kind of like a well-trodden story where it's so hard for a UK band to break the US. At least it was back in the day, because a band would literally, they'd just have to go over there for a year, go around every radio station all over the country and just tour it that way. You couldn't just go over for a month and expect to break America. That's why U2 did it. I think U2 were one of the first bands who took the model of like, we're going to break America, so we need to be in America for as long as it takes. Whereas now it's totally different. You've got all your digital marketing and all that kind of thing. You can put it in playlists on Spotify and you become big in a different way.
Right. No, that's cool. And then it's cool, yeah, because you can go back now and see now I can look up this band and I can listen to the hits. And
the video for 17 was shot in San Francisco, so that's as close as they got to breaking America, I think.
Wow. Yeah, that is so interesting, those kinds of things. And then so you're still doing the Poison thing too? Is that?
Yeah, I got dragged back in, mate. I got dragged back into it. Me and Rob from Midnight City, we started the Poison thing in, he'll tell me the actual date. It was something like 2012, I think it was. And I was in it for a few years, then I left, and then he says, "Oh, do you want to come back? I'm putting a whole new lineup together." I was, yeah, go on then. I'll put the Bobby Doll wig on.
Hey, you got the wig and the hat and stuff.
Yeah, fun. There's the bass just there.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah, I would see that. I want to see. I still haven't seen you play. Like, would you ever tour the U.S. with any of these things, or do you like a show?
Man. I'd love to come. I mean, some of my favorite band memories are playing in America. We did 2 Teenage Casket Company tours, like East Coast tours. Trying to think what else I've done. I did a Bullet Boys tour in 2009, and then I came over when I was doing the Ryan Hamilton stuff and played Cinco de Mayo right in your hometown, pretty much, with Roger Klein. That's before I knew you, though.
It was before we were friends. That sucks. Damn it. I still got to come to Europe. I've never even been to anything in Europe. There's so many places I want to go. I feel like I'd need like a month to go everywhere I want to
Oh
go.
man, you got to come at some point. It'd be
Yeah.
a blast, man. It really would.
Yeah,
Bring Dana
everything's
over and-
are things calm, like socially. There's not like a upheaval or whatever. I feel like I don't know.
There's always something happening.
There's always something. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I feel like it calmed down. There was like some stuff going on with censorship or something that, and then I would like ask you about it, and you're like, I don't know, it seems fine here. I don't know. What you're talking about.
I remember you messaging me about
And
that. I was like,
weird,
what is all this?
I'm seeing these messages, and people are like getting arrested for sharing a meme. I'm like, maybe this was fake news. I don't know. It was crazy, but yeah,
yeah.
I'm
It's
sure
all
there's
good. We had some friends from Texas come over a few weeks ago, and we
Oh,
met
really?
up with them in London, and yeah, they had a good time. So yeah, man, whenever you come over, we'll show
I
you
feel like,
around.
yeah, that's that's exactly right though, because I remember like even September 11th, I feel like I was thinking about Europe, and my dad was like, oh, it's not a good time to travel now. And then like, yeah, there's just always something. Then there was economy crashed here, and then, and then there was COVID, and like, there's always like some sort of thing. I got to pull the trigger. Screw it.
Yeah, you got to do it, man.
You do all the other you do take the train and go to like Italy and Paris and all that other stuff?
No, not really. I mean, only times I've really been to Europe is with band stuff, and that's a long time ago now. But I'm such a big fan of you guys and America in general, and there's still so many places I want to go to over there. So it's always.
Is there anywhere you haven't been that you want to go?
Let me think.
Have you been to Seattle?
Very, very briefly. We went to me and some friends went to Canada in, I think it was around 2002, I think it was. We flew into Vancouver, hired a car, and actually drove into Seattle, then kind of back into Canada to Calgary. So we was only there for like a couple of days. We saw Matchbox 20 there.
Oh, nice.
It was Matchbox 20, Sugar Ray, and Maroon 5 opened for them before Maroon 5 exploded.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Mark McGrath, it's so weird because he's friends with Pete, and because I think they've done shows together, Sugar Ray and Bret Michaels. I think he's part of that like Party Gras or whatever. But it's so weird because Mark McGrath like follows me on Instagram, and it's so weird. I'm like, what the hell? This is the weird. But I've tried to get him to do my podcast. I sent him so many messages, and I knew he got them because he follows me, so he must get the messages. Finally, he like replied, and he goes, "Hey, thanks so much for thinking of me." He's like, I don't want to do any podcasts, and I was like,
"Oh man, he would be a great guest. I do like his whole vibe."
Pete said he knows more about music than anybody. He's like an encyclopedia. He knows more than Eddie Trunk, and I was like, really?
He's a full-on hair metal dude, isn't he? He knows his stuff.
I think not just that, like everything. Pete says he knows about like from like Elvis to like today. Like he knows every genre, like all sorts of stuff. So I'm like, that's awesome. Like he'd be so fun to have on the show. But yeah, I guess he just doesn't want to do it for whatever reason.
Yeah, I had Murphy Cargus on the show. He was the bass player for Sugar Ray. Yeah, and I know there was like a big split, and there's all legal stuff going on and things like that. So I didn't go down that round. We spoke about Sugar Ray, obviously, but he was really cool guy as well. He's got a really good YouTube channel. Obviously, he's a bass player, so I'm kind of in already. I love everything he's talking about and things like that. But yeah, he was a really cool dude, and he's somebody that if you like. He's just really good at all the social marketing and things like that. Really positive vibes. He's a good guy to follow, whether you're a bass player or a musician or not. He's just really good at sending out good messages. So yeah, check out Murphy Cargus.
Is that what he's doing? Is just social media, YouTube stuff, or is he in a band too now?
He plays a little bit. He just released a book all about bass playing and things. So yeah, it's definitely worth checking it out.
Oh, the Adika says I'm killing it. No, I'm not. Do you know Adika? I don't know if you met. Like he played bass for Dee Dee Ramone, and
I met Stefan many years ago when he played in Nottingham with Gilby Clarke.
Oh yeah, that's right. He played with Gilby Clarke, and he was in LA Guns for like a couple months, and I think he tells me that he was with Alice Cooper for like a minute, but then he had a choice. It was either Alice Cooper and Dee Dee Ramone, and he picked Dee Dee Ramone. He's like,
right.
And I mean, I think that's kind of cool. Like, but Alice Cooper would be fun to play with too. Like he's here in Arizona. I think I told you I saw him at the mall one time, and like, everyone has a story of like seeing him or meet. He's so nice. He just goes to like the mall. He goes to restaurants. Like he's like just out and about, and everyone like sees him all the time. It's crazy.
Well, I heard about Stefan from this guy here, Ryan Roxy, who I'm a big fan
Oh
of.
yeah, they're buddies.
Yeah, Stefan played in Dad's Porno Mag.
Yeah.
With Mike Fasano from Warrant, who was in Warrant at one point, and
Was he in Extreme too, or no?
No,
just one. Okay, yeah, I know. Yeah, it's all incestuous, and he's got. And Stefan lived with Steven Adler for a little bit, and like he's in Steven Adler's book and stuff. And like, yeah, there's all. Stefan's got some great stories. I tried to have him on these live streams. He never replied to my email. I don't know.
He ghosts you all the.
I should have just texted him. I don't know. It was hard to like. I was like trying to send out people that I could have on, and so I just sent a big email. It was kind of like a mass email, but it was only to like 15 of you guys. And I was like, wow, I hope people want to do it. And then like enough, like 8 or 9 people replied, and I was like, okay, good. This will be fun. And that was kind of the theme with this. And it's been fun. It's been a little bit stressful because I'm like every day I'm like, oh shit, I gotta let another live stream. I gotta like promote it. I gotta make a thumbnail. Like, but I'm not going crazy with like, when you do a full episode, you have to edit a little bit, add an intro, put it on social media. You do a little bit more. And these things, I'm like, I'm not gonna prep. I'm not gonna write about a bunch of questions and do research. I'm like, let's just talk. Like, you guys are my friends. Like, we can just have a conversation.
Absolutely, man. How many is it going to be when you've wrapped it up?
I think it's like 8 or 9. I think I've done, you're my 3rd. And then I think it goes till Monday. I don't think I have any on Saturday and Sunday. So like, yeah, if Adika wants to hop in or somebody else, sure, I'll fucking do it. Or, I think somebody else, I take it back. Cause I think I'm doing Monday, and then is Tuesday Christmas or Wednesday's Christmas, right?
Yeah. Wednesday's Christmas. Tuesday's Christmas Eve.
Yeah, Tuesdays. So somebody said they wanted to do, I had them on a different day, and then they said, oh, can I do Tuesday? And I go, that's Christmas Eve. And he's like, yeah, I don't care. I was like, I don't care if you don't care. So yeah, so we're going to do one on Christmas Eve. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, it's been awesome, fun. Nice. It's just been good to have these conversations, and then like talking about podcasts and all this, and kind of trying to get a feel for like what I want to do. Cause a lot of you guys, we all have the same kind of, I think, gripes about the
struggles.
Numbers. Yeah. Like, it sucks because that'd be so cool. Like I told Darren yesterday, I go, because Darren's helped me so much. I'm like, Darren, if I make it, if I'm able to get in this back door and get some big guests, I'm bringing you with me. Like I want to help as many people as I can. He's like, I don't need your help. I was like, but I want to do it. I don't care. Like I'm going to help you. Like I know he really wants to have Andrew Dice Clay on. Like that's one of his bucket list guests. And Adika is good friends or was good friends with Andrew Dice Clay, which is crazy, but I can't get him on my, like, they're so funny. I have some of these connections, and I'm like, it just never, like, Pete is obviously good friends with Brett Michaels, and Brett, I met Brett Michaels, and he goes, oh, I'll do your podcast. And I was like, really? And then I messaged his publicist, and she just never happened. And I'm like, all right, well, I don't want to push it, but it sucks. Like, you always think those things are like, Mark McGrath follows you, and you're like, I made it. Like, he's going to do and then it's like, no,
it's all timing. It's, how many times have you tried to get somebody and it's took years, and then all of a sudden you land them? I finally got Billy Sheehan on my podcast after many, many years of trying.
Well, it's funny. Your friend Harry had mentioned Ted Poley, and that was one, oddly enough, that was like a bucket list guest for me, because I love Danger. And and also, like, I don't think Ted Poley had done that many interviews. And some of the ones that I listened, he was really funny. And I was like, dude, this would be a fun guest. And then he just finally, I think he gave in and did it. And he did it for like 20 minutes, but he said he loved me afterwards. He messaged me and he's like, that was one of the best podcast interviews I've ever had. You didn't ask me anything about how the band formed and all that. And I was like, well, yeah, because I think you've told that story before. So I was trying to like ask him about what was that side project he had? Boneyard?
Bone Machine.
Bone Machine. Yeah. I was asking about Bone Machine and stuff. And I was like, and he was telling me the story of like, it was cool. I can't remember exactly what happened, but yeah.
Bone Machine were great. We saw them in the UK in 1995, I think it was. They came over and did like a small club tour in the UK. And that was
they toured more in the UK than the US, I think, right?
Bone Machine perhaps did, yeah. Well, they just did the one tour, then I think they came back for a festival. That was just so cool. Because I was at the age of, how old would I be? I'd be like 20 or something. So I was still full on, like, mega mad about music. So the fact that like Ted Poley from Danger was coming over, was just like blew our minds. And there's a strange story about that one. Obviously, I live in Nottingham, which is right in the middle of the UK. Saw the Bone Machine tour dates get announced, and they was playing at a place called Bradford. a legendary club called Bradford Rios, which is about 2 hours north of where I live. So I thought, oh, let's go see them there. They were playing in Nottingham a few weeks later, but I wanted to catch as many dates as I could. So we're going to go and see him in Bradford. So I drove to Bradford with my friend, got there pretty early, straight to the front, like amazing, amazing gig. And this was back in the day when you'd wait for autographs afterwards. So we waited around and they said, oh, you can wait in the venue and they'll come out and sign stuff. And Ted came out with the whole band. And towards the end of the night, they said, oh, let's get somebody said, let's get a photograph in front of one of the pool tables. So I've not seen this photograph, but it's out there somewhere. And there's a reason I'm telling this bit of the story. So there's a photograph of Bone Machine, or at least Ted Pauley, with like, I don't know, a dozen fans. So this photo's out there somewhere. Years later, fast forward, I don't know, 15 years, I start the band Teenage Casket Company with Rob Wild. We both love Danger Danger. So we like talking, like, oh, did you ever see Bone Machine back in the day? I'm like, yeah, I saw him at Bradford. He's like, oh, I was at the Bradford gig. I was like, no way, where was you? It's like, I was like at the front. I'm like, you're kidding me. It's like, this is before we knew him. And Rob didn't live in Bradford. He lived about 2 hours away from there as well. So it was just nuts. And I said, oh, did you stay for autographs after? It's like, yeah. We had a photograph in front of a pool table. So there's a photograph somewhere with me and Rob Wild and Ted Pauley in it. And not only that, the original drummer from Midnight City, he was in the support band that night. And then there was also two brothers, Tom and James Martin, who went on to, they're like two of the best songwriters in the whole AOR genre, if you like. They write for stuff for Frontiers. They wrote for Ted Pauley before. They were in the crowd as well that night. And they weren't from that town either. So it's nuts. All these people converged to see Bone Machine one miserable Thursday night in Bradford. It's just
That's
bizarre.
awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's like some of these bands, they just have like a cult following, and I think that's awesome. Like, I think that's so cool. But yeah, it is interesting too. Like you say, like, oh, like back in your 20s when you were really, and I feel like I'm kind of the same. Like, I was really into this stuff, music, when I first got into it, when I was like 14, 15. I mean, it was my life. Like, it's all I wanted to be in a band. That's all I wanted to do. My dad's like, what do you want to do with your life? I'm like, I want to do music. Like, I want to be in a band, or I want to be part of the scene somehow. I didn't. And then I was just like, I guess I started to realize, oh, maybe I'm not that talented musically, so I got to do something else. But I should have pursued it and done something with entertainment. I mean, and also movies. I got really into movies and stuff. I worked at a video store, and I was like, I
never knew you worked at a video store.
Yeah, I worked at a couple.
I
worked at a local one that was just called like Video Zone or whatever. And then it was like a mom and pop kind of thing and I think they went under because the guy sold it right when they found out a Blockbuster was coming in, and this guy bought it and he thought he could keep it alive. And then of course, when Blockbuster came, they went out of business.
Yeah.
And then later I worked in college for like, I think it was during the summer of college. I worked at, or maybe it was, I think it was like after my freshman year in college. I worked at a chain called Video Update. I don't know if I've
not heard of that one.
Yeah, that was cool because they had like they had porn and stuff. They had like, and so they'd have like the NC-17, because sometimes you go to Blockbuster and you're like, what was that one movie like with the guy from South Park, Orgasmo? Did you ever see that?
No.
Yeah, it was NC-17. So like that movie you couldn't get at Blockbuster. There was like a few movies that were NC-17 that Blockbuster wouldn't carry. And so Video Update would have those ones. And I think there were some other ones that, like the unrated versions and stuff of movies, like Blockbuster just wouldn't carry that stuff. So
what's the definition of NC-17? Because we don't have that rating.
Oh yeah, it's like some dumb American thing. Like, so restricted R is like you're supposed to be 17, or you can't be under 17 without a parent.
Yeah, but you see that to us, if we had that when we were growing up in the UK, that would be the most amazing thing ever. Because our ratings went from U, which I think is your G, which is like the lowest one.
Okay.
And you had PG, which you have guys as well.
Yeah.
We'll miss out PG-13 and all that kind of stuff because they kind of came along a little bit later, I think. We had a 12. I think Batman 1989 introduced the 12 rating in the UK, which is kind of similar to your PG-13. But then we had a 15, and then we had an 18. But you were not allowed into those unless you were that age, regardless of whether you were with a parent.
That's the thing with NC-17. So it was like with R, you could be, if you were 17 or under, you could go if you had your parent. So if you were like 5 years old, you could go to an R-rated movie if your parent took you to it.
That's insane.
But yeah, NC-17, you couldn't be there unless you were 17.
Right.
So it was kind of weird because I don't know how they drew the line. Like, cause I remember one of the first ones was Showgirls, was NC-17. And so I don't know if I was 17 or I think I might have been 18, but I know that I went to it and saw it in the theater and I thought it was so cool. I'm like, I'm seeing Showgirls. Yeah. And I'm like, but I didn't really see what was so different about that between an R movie. I mean, it was like, yeah, there was boobs, but there's boobs in R movies. So I don't know if it was like the time of like, there was more boobs or something. Like, I don't know. It was kind of weird how they distinguish what's NC-17, what's R, what's unrated.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, it's kind of a silly thing. Yeah.
So what were some of the big titles when you were in the video store, when you were working there, which was like the massive movies?
Well, I do remember Scream. I think it came out on well, first I remember this lady, she came in and she goes, "Where is my guaranteed copy of Scream?" And I'm like, that's Hollywood Video's slogan or whatever. We're Video Update. And like, you're not like, it's the wrong store. But I remember Scream. So yeah, it would have been around that time. There was a lot of good movies in the 90s. And then I remember like the next summer I worked at a movie theater and I was telling this, I don't know how this came up yesterday. I was talking to my girlfriend and we were talking about, and she said, "Oh, was there ever like lines at the theater for movies?" And I was like, "Yeah, there was a line for Saving Private Ryan." I remember that specifically. It was like down to the dumpsters. It was like so far away from the theater. And then I remember this girl, these people came and they wanted a refund. And I was like, what? I was so pissed because I was like, nobody ever asked for a refund at a movie. But I was like, oh, okay, like what's the reason? And then like she points at her over to her daughter, and her daughter is just like bawling, like I don't know, she's like 14 girl and she's just crying, and he's like, yeah, she got really upset. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll get my manager. Like I thought, it's probably pretty traumatic to see that movie if you're a kid.
Oh, just a bit. Yeah, that like messed me up when I saw it. It's like a bit of a shocker, that was.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was a good time in the 90s though. Like that's when I really got into, like, I feel like for movies it sucked for music though, because I was just getting into music at the early 90s, and then it turned into the grunge, which is great. I love grunge, but it wasn't my favorite, I didn't like it as much as the Guns N' Roses and the Poisons and the Warrants. I liked all that stuff. And then I tried to I liked their, the darker years of Warrant and stuff, but it wasn't, it's not the heyday,
Yeah.
So
you just wanted a couple more years. Just give us a couple more years of it.
I wish I could have been a little bit older maybe, or just like started listening to the music in the 80s. Like, I guess when I was like 12 or like when I was 10, I was kind of just more into like pop music. And then I remember I was into rap for a couple of years, but yeah, I didn't really get into the hair metal until I was like 14. And then that was like, I just caught the tail end and it was like over. I was like, damn it.
Yeah.
I missed this awesome round of music.
Is that your favorite era of it when you first got into it? Or do you prefer stuff from a few years before? Or
yeah, oddly enough, I would say I think that era is my favorite. I think it's like 91, 92. Yeah. I think, and I did like I said, I liked the grunge. I liked the how rock was eclectic. Like, if in 91, you look at the biggest, I mean, they had Guns N' Roses, Metallica, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Nirvana, like everyone was putting out these massive albums. It was an amazing year for rock. And like Megadeth, I think in 92 had Countdown to Extinction. I mean, there was so many, I loved all of it. I loved it all, but I really gravitated towards the melodic stuff, especially because I just thought it sounded so cool. It was so like catchy and sing along to. And
I think it was like a lot of those bands' best stuff around that time. I mean, a lot of people disagree. They'll say, oh, it was ready for it to change, which I can see certain elements of that. But I think a lot of those bands were putting out their best stuff around that time.
Oh, yeah. Like Skid Row, Slave to the Grind. That was the first album that hooked me on rock and made me a rock fan. And I still think it's one of the best albums ever made. It's so great. It's crazy that I got to interview Rachel and Snake from that band. I was like, that was surreal. We talk about favorite guests. I mean, those two guys were both, and they were awesome. They had great stories. And I mean, yeah, that was just such an iconic album for me, I think.
Did you see him live back then?
I didn't see him because by the time I became a fan, like I think the tour had just wrapped up or whatever. And then they did I think they might have toured Europe or something, and then they were on hiatus. They were working on that new record that I think was called Subhuman Race.
Yeah.
And so I saw him on that tour, and so it was a lot smaller. It was at this place called the Moore Theater in Seattle that was pretty tiny, and it was amazing. I mean, that was my favorite band. I went to the concert and got to see them live. I think I got as good of a ticket as I could get, and I was pretty close. And I thought they put on an amazing show. I thought I knew the words to every song.
Yeah.
It was awesome. But
do you remember who opened?
I do. It was. Wait, no. I'm drawing a blank. I want to say, was it the Cro-Mags? It might have been. Damn it! I don't. It was some like really heavy. No, what was it? Oh God, I'm drawing a blank. But I could look it up and I would go, yep, that's it. Because it was somewhere. It was in that kind of like very heavy like punk vein that I think I'm sure Rachel Bolan picked it.
That was like you say, going back to that weird time. Like that's the reason I asked, because there was no telling who was opening up for them at that time.
Well, yeah, because like they're not getting like back then. It was like anything hair metal was the kiss of death, right? So you wanted to get like remember when Motley Crue had Karabi, and then they toured with like the Ramones and like King's X and stuff, and you're like, what? Like, why? Like, yeah, it's kind of, I guess, in the same genre, but they really wanted to be like, no, look, we're not hair metal, but and so yeah, I think Skid Row, it was some sort of like really heavy industrial. So I'm trying to Google it and see if I can find it. I know when I hear it, I go, yeah, that was it. And they were like, okay, I guess, but it was just not. I don't think it was a great fit, honestly. Skid Row 95 tour opening band. If I Google that, do you think it would come? It's got to come up. That's going to bug me. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, did you see him on that tour? I forget. Are you a Skid Row fan?
Oh yeah. Me and my friend Carl went to see him on the Slave to the Grind tour.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah, the NEC in Birmingham. They had LA Guns and Love Hate opening for them.
Yeah, I think I asked Jizzy about that because I think he got in a fight with Sebastian Bach, and I think he was telling that story. I think I asked him or I heard it on another podcast where he was telling the story about how they got into a fight or something. And yeah, but I think they're cool. Then Jizzy ended up auditioning for Skid Row at one point.
Really?
Yeah, he told that story. Or Snake from Skid Row, because I asked him, I said, was there any of those like auditions or things that didn't fall through? And he goes, well, did you know Jizzy Pearl auditioned for Skid Row? And I was like, I didn't know that. And I thought I broke that big story, but I don't think anybody picked it up from, but I did. Jason McMaster from Dangerous Toys auditioned, and that went on Blabbermouth. I think Jason McMaster told that story. That was kind of cool. So I think I'm on Skid Row's Wikipedia page.
Oh, nice.
Which is really weird. Yeah, that's fucking crazy.
I do like Jason's podcast as well. I'll give a shout to the Talk Louder podcast. That's great.
Yeah. He's done. I need to have him back. He's a cool guy. I love Dangerous Toys. Such an underrated band. But like I remember, like in that they had that album Pissed. I think that's a great album. That song Pissed is so cool. That came out in like 94, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember seeing them in like Metal Edge and stuff like that, but I always gravitated to the long blonde haired singer.
Right?
Yeah.
But then you'd listen and you'd go, wow, that like, because I just looked at the Dangerous. I remember reading about them, and then like they had this thing, Blockbuster Music, for a few years where you could go and you could listen to a CD, and then they'd seal it back up, and so you could yeah, it was crazy. You could like take a CD and go, hey, can I listen to this? And they'd they put like their headphones on. You could listen to it before you buy it. And so I remember listening to that Piss, and I just remember hearing that song and going, oh, this song is so fucking cool. But then the rest of the album I didn't get like hooked on. And so I don't think I bought it at that time. I ended up buying it later. Yeah. But yeah, that first song Pissed I thought that was so cool. It's a great they were cool live. I drove to Colorado to see them. I drove like 12 or 14 hours or something to see them live. Because
when was that?
That was like before the pandemic. I want to say like 5-6 years ago, but they don't do a lot of shows. They only do like a few one-offs. And so I was like, oh, they're never going to come to Phoenix. And so you can either go to Texas or like in that kind of area, Colorado, Utah, I think they'll do shows. So I just drove, and it was a fun road trip too. But man, they were great live. I was singing along to every song. And their guitar player, Scott, I think his name is, he's really crazy live. I'm like, this guy is like one of the best guitar players I've ever seen, but he's not as famous as Zach Wilde, just because I think it's the same thing with the podcast. Like there's just so many musicians, so many podcasts. Like, I guess he's not good enough or something. I don't know. To me, I thought he was insane. I thought he was amazing.
Who have you seen live recently?
Oh, I'm trying to think. God, I can't remember the last concert I went to. God, what was it? It's like I'm drawing a blank here. It's like I haven't seen a lot of. I mean, the last one probably I saw was actually was Train, because I probably told the story way too many times, but my brother's wife's sister is married to the singer of Train. So like the day they were here, my brother just texted me and said, "Hey, you want to go see Train?" And I was like, "All right, sure." It was like a Tuesday. I'm like, "Yeah, I don't have anything going on." And so we got like backstage pass and like get a, I've met Train. I met the singer many times. Super nice guy. Nice. So we got, went back, talked to him a little bit, and then we're back there and we're like having a drink and we're hearing the opening band. And I was like, "Oh, this band sounds kind of good. I kind of want to go check them out." So I went and watched the opening band. It's called Yacht Rock Review. And it's just like a yacht rock, like cover band, but they were fucking awesome. So I just had the singer of that band on my podcast.
I saw that. Yeah. I watched that. Yeah.
He is cool. If you like yacht rock, like
how long has that term been around? I've like not heard it until about the last 6 months.
Oh, really? I think it's been around for at least 5 years, maybe 10. Yeah. But it's funny because I grew up with that stuff. Like that's what my dad would listen to, is that adult contemporary stuff. And so I don't know, there is like a place in my heart. I never like loved it as much as I loved hair metal, but now when you hear those songs, there's like a nostalgia thing, and like they're fun to listen to live because you know the words to every song. And so I like, what did the singer of Yacht Rock Review said? He said, "We play him a little faster. We call that cocaine speed." Like they play him a little sped up or whatever. And so they're really fun to see live. And he said, when they're not opening, when they do like a headlining gig, they're more like Steel Panther. Like they'll do banter and stuff like that. So I want to see them. They're coming to Phoenix. Like, it's like either the day before or the day after my birthday. So I'm like, I might have to go to that show.
Oh, you got to do it, man. You got to do it. Well, there's a yacht rock documentary going around now, right?
Is there?
Yeah.
Oh shit, I need to see that.
Yeah, I saw it pop up on one of the streaming channels the other day. So, but yeah, I love all that stuff. It's just the term which I'm not that familiar with. I understand the kind of music it relates to, but
what about yourself? Have you seen any good shows lately?
I was trying to think that before I came on, but I've not been to many. But my wife's been dragging me to a few shows because she's got a very different taste in music to me. So she took me to see the Jesus and Mary Chain last week. Who were like,
oh, that's a Seattle band. I know that band, right? Isn't it?
They're from Scotland.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, Scottish band.
Yeah, I think I just remember it in the 90s in Seattle. I feel like that's when I first heard of them. Weren't they kind of grunge though?
No, well, that's the weird thing. It's like they've been around since like the very early 80s, and they're like one of the bands which kind of influenced a bit of like the gothic scene, which that's what I had in my head. And everybody who I said, "Oh, I'm going to see the Jesus and Mary Chain," they said, "Oh, take your earplugs. It's going to be all feedback and all this kind of stuff." But I went there and I loved it. It was great. It reminded me more of like 80s new wave kind of things. And I was
okay. Yeah, I never knew I just remember seeing that name in like The Stranger. The Stranger, I think that was called. It was like the Seattle newspaper. And I'd always read about you could get it for free or something. So like you'd read about, there was all these like lists of bands and things. And I just remember like, I just love music. So I love reading about even stuff that I was like, I don't know what this music is or whatever, but it sounds, I mean, I loved Metal Edge. That was my go-to. Like when that came, I was so excited. I just read through like all the stuff about my bands that I loved. And I just go through it so fast. And I was like, damn it, I need more. Like it would have been crazy to be 14 like if there was podcasts and shit back when I wouldn't have gotten anything done. I wouldn't have done any homework. I wouldn't have gone to school. I would have just stayed home all day and listened to interviews with my favorite band.
Yeah. Crazy, man. So I went to see the Jesus and Mary Chain, and she also took me to see Evan Dando from the Lemonheads a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Is he, so what's he doing? Solo stuff now?
Yeah, it's just solo stuff now. It was really good because we'd seen him a few years ago. He was doing his solo stuff in a full band, and I didn't enjoy it. I mean, the Lemonheads are cool, but I didn't enjoy his solo stuff. So he said, "Oh, he's coming around again I want to go see him. I'm like, okay. And I read some reviews online of earlier dates in the tour, and they were basically saying it was a bit of a car crash. I'm like, oh no, what's this going to be like? We get there, the place is packed. It's probably 500 people in there or something like that. And he was great. He was a little bit of a mess, but you could tell he wanted to be there. He was having fun. So I was like, I'm all in. It's great. And it's kind of weird seeing those guys who, I mean, you don't know what those guys have seen when they, at the height of their popularity in like the mid 90s. It must have been huge, and things they've done and things they put up their noses and all that kind of thing. But every now and again, as much of a mess he was at times, there's these little sparks of genius and awesomeness kept coming through. I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm all in. Yeah,
That's
really,
cool.
really
Yeah,
good.
I only remember their cover of Mrs. Robinson. I don't. Did they have any other hits or?
They had one called Rudderless. That's a pretty big song. Yeah, definitely worth checking out. The Shame About Ray album was the big one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
did you play with? Didn't you play with Tough when they? Were you part of his band when he went there with Stevie Rochelle went to Europe?
No, I've never. Only time I've played with Stevie is very, very briefly. Is I mean, Stevie's great. I mean, we both know Stevie's.
Yeah, I just saw, because he does another show that I just thought of. I forgot that I went and saw Mike Tramp and Stevie Tough play opened for Mike Tramp. So I got to see both of those. Like, I had never seen either one of them live.
Oh,
so
both was great. Mike Tramp's great.
Yeah. Well, I had him on my podcast, and then maybe I should have had him on again. I don't know, but I just had him on that one time, and I love the songs. They're so catchy.
Yeah, I mean, Stevie's been a massive influence going back to the Tough days, because I always loved how they marketed themselves. Because probably to you and me in 1991, Tough were this massive, massive band, but they weren't really. They were just a new band on a new label. But just the way that Stevie marketed that band and put the name out there, I was all in and just loved it. I was a member of the Tough Muff fan club even here in the UK. I used to get the newsletters and things like that. And then back in, let me get the dates right, 2006, on one of the Teenage Casket Company tours, there's a band from Albany, New York, are really good friends of ours called the Erotics. So we'd like do international gig swaps. They'd come to the UK. We'd sort out all the gears, all the transport, all the accommodation. Like, you're not going to make any money, but you're going to come over, do some good shows and have a good time, obviously sell some merch. And then they did the same in the US. We'd fly to America. They'd look after us, book the shows. So we did that in 2005. Then they said, oh, do you want to come back the next year? I'm like, yeah, awesome. So we started promoting it and all this kind of thing. And that was around the time, you remember the band Veins of Jenna?
Yeah.
And
isn't that one of Stevie's bands, right?
Yeah. Stevie kind of took him under his wing and stuff. And that was around that time. And I think he got wind of this Erotics Teenage Casket Company East Coast thing. So he messaged Mike, the singer from the Erotics. He's like, how do you feel about us making it a metal sludge tour, and we add Veins of Jenna to the bill, and I'll come out on the road with you and we'll do a couple of songs at the end of the night. So that became the Metal Sludge Extravaganza 2006.
That's awesome.
Oh, there's a poster there. You see it?
Yeah, actually I do. It's right down. Yeah, that's awesome. So that's very cool.
Steve is there. So at the end of each night, he'd get up and jam with the Erotics, and they'd do I Hate Kissing You Goodbye, All New Generation, and American Hairband. And I think he was on one of the shows, Bill, the bass player from the Erotics, he couldn't do, so I filled in for the Erotics, and then did the Stevie jam at the end. So that's the only time I've played with him. So I keep saying to him, every time next time you come to the UK, you need a bass player, but he's got his friend Michael from Shameless who always comes over. So I'm like, damn it.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Was there ever, when you started, or just like not even when you started out, but just throughout your musical career, has there ever been a band that, like, somebody that you were friends with in another band, like a musician that like really like that you guys were kind of at the same level, and then like he like made it and he like just blew up or something? Did you ever become friends with someone that became a huge star?
I wouldn't say huge stars. You got me thinking. That's an interesting question, because I've got a friend who, I mean, Rob's done great in, Midnight City have like toured Japan, Australia, and all that kind of stuff. So he's smashing it with that. The only other people I've got a friend called Rich Shaw, who is a guitarist who literally lives used to live about a mile up the road from me. And he got the gig in Cradle of Filth. I don't know if you remember those.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He
It's like
played
really death metal heavy.
Oh yeah. He got that gig and toured with them for I think he was with them for 7 years or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And then I've got another friend called Lee, who's an incredible keyboard player, Hammond player. And he's played with so many people. He played in a band called Spiritualized. I don't know if you remember them.
No.
Yeah, they were a pretty big band for a while. So he's gone on and done some really, really, really cool things. So they're the only ones that I'm probably get in trouble for forgetting somebody afterwards, but they're the ones that jump to mind.
No, that's great. That's cool. Yeah, just because you think about that. You always hear the stories of when people are starting out, and then Adika's got so many of those because he was in the scene though of LA. And so Ryan Roxy, was playing with Alice Cooper, and his friend Eric Singers was drumming with Kiss, and so he's got all these friends that are all doing these crazy things, and it's just it's insane. That being around that scene. I kind of wish that I was a little older too in the 90s when the grunge scene was real, because I couldn't go to all those clubs and stuff.
Right.
But if I could have gone, if I was 21 and I was in Seattle, I mean, I probably would have gotten to know some of those bands and stuff. It would be interesting.
I'm probably the same as you. It's if only if I was 2 years older, I could have been into it a little bit more and a bit more dived into it rather than just missing out, just on that cusp. But it's fine. I'm happy where I am.
Yeah. Well, so tell me about tell my viewers too also about the store, because I love this thing that you've got, the video store thing. It's but you were telling me I think before that it's kind of like a museum. People don't actually rent the videos because you can watch it on streaming, but it looks so cool. So people you pay to go in and just look at all the stuff, or what?
No, it's free to come in.
What? You don't even charge people to come in? What the hell? How do you make money?
That's what everybody asks when they come in. No, it started off a friend of mine, Chris. We've known each other since then, the late 90s, through bands and stuff like that. And he ran this sports store. We went on holiday a few years ago and we got talking, and he's like, "Oh, I've got this storage space above my store with there's nothing in there. Let's do something cool." And I said, "Oh, how do you fancy recreating a video store?" He's like, "Yeah, if you want to do it, let's do it." So yeah, when we got back from holiday, we just set about recreating an old school, like you said earlier, like a mom and pop video store. Opened it in July 2022. It's more like a video store museum. I've still got a VCR player, but not many other people have. But we just wanted to recreate that nostalgia element for people. So we've made it, when you walk through those doors, feels like you're back in 1987 with all the correct shelving and all that old school tapes. Not much past 1994. That's probably as late as we get. So yeah, I've been there for 2.5 years now. And that's what everybody says. How do you make money? But we've got a little screening room in there where we can show films. So we've got a 14-seater cinema in there. So people hire it out for birthday parties and things like that.
I'm trying to show pictures of it if I figure out how to do this, but I mean, people can obviously follow you, and I mean, it's all.
Yeah, if you look on any social media channels, it's just 80s Video Shop.
Yeah.
Does what it says on the tin.
I'm trying to open up these. Yeah, I can't do it. I'm terrible at internet. But yeah, it's so cool. That's definitely, I want to come. If I come visit, I definitely want to come to the shop.
Yeah, we're trying to get more people to come in for sign-ins and things like that. This past weekend, we had a guy called Lawrence R. Harvey. And
I saw that. Was he the guy from Human Centipede?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have him on your podcast too?
Yeah, a few weeks ago. Yeah. He's a cool guy. And yeah.
Was he the main guy, or was he? I can't remember which role he had. Was he the killer?
He was the main guy in Human Centipede 2, which was the really black and white, really gritty one. I mean, none of them are very pleasant films, but
no.
And then he played a different character in part 3, which was set in America. So it's a really interesting trilogy of films, actually, because the first one's set in Germany, I think, or
I want to rewatch those.
Yeah, I mean, they're not pleasant, but they are good films. So the first one's in Europe, in Europe. Second one's in England, and then the third one's set in America.
Did you see? You said you did see The Substance yet, or no?
I did, yes.
Yeah, isn't that good?
You love that film, right?
Dude, I saw it 2 times, and because I went to see it by myself because I thought, oh, my girlfriend, she won't like this, and then I saw it and I was like, oh my god, this is so good. Like, I want her to see this. I feel like she'd like it, and I think she did like it. It's just so weird at the end too, but like the buildup is so great, and the acting, and like it's just so unique and different. And people that like you and me that watch a lot of movies, we love shit like that because it's different. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to see a formulaic same old kind of movie. Like, you've seen that. You want to see something that you don't know where the fuck it's gonna go, and that's that movie.
Oh, that is one of those films, yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I watched it and I fell asleep for like 10 minutes, and I woke up where everything had gone crazy at the end.
Oh,
I was like, what the fuck?
Oh shit, yeah.
So I had to go back and watch it again. But yeah, that was weird, waking up towards the end and seeing, damn.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of another one of my favorite movies, Dead Alive, or I think you guys call it Brain Dead in the UK. Yeah. Peter Jackson, who directed Lord of the Rings, which I'm not even a big Lord of the Rings fan, but this movie is fucking amazing. I thought that movie was so great. Like, and it reminded me of that, especially the end. The ending was very similar to that. It's like kind of like tongue in cheek, and then becomes almost like, I could see how some people might not like it, but I fucking loved it. I thought it was great.
All the practical effects and everything was just unreal. But did you see a film in the 90s called, or very late 80s, called Society? Did you ever see that?
No.
Okay.
Now I got to watch this.
Yeah, you probably like it because it's got. You remember Billy Warlock from Baywatch?
No.
Okay, he was one of the characters in Baywatch. He's the main guy in it, and I think it's set in Hollywood, and it's a really good snapshot of that time. Actually, I think it's 1989. That's the year I've got in my mind.
Okay.
But those couple of years, so you'll relate to like how the film looks, and I think he's like growing up in a rich household.
I'm gonna have to like make a note of this so I don't forget. Society, you said?
If you put Society Billy Warlock, you'll get the right one.
Okay.
And he feels like he doesn't fit in. It's like he doesn't feel like his parents are his parents, and then he starts seeing weird stuff. And that's all I'm gonna say.
Okay, I love it. That sounds great. That's yeah. The other good horror movie I saw this year was actually a sequel, Smile 2. Did you see that one?
I did see that one. I struggle with it a little bit.
Oh, but, really?
I know a few people absolutely adore it.
I liked it. I liked it better than the first one. I thought it was so creepy and just the vibe and stuff. Like I loved it. Yeah, you didn't like it?
I think I went in expecting it to be something else. I thought the first one was cool, and I think I was expecting it to be a little bit more. This is putting the film down, actually, but I think I expected it to be a little bit more throwaway and leave your brain at the door. Whereas it's quite an intelligent film. Smile 2 is. There's lots going off in it, so I perhaps need to revisit. I think with a different mindset. Yeah,
no, it's good. What else have you seen that's good? I'm always looking for new.
Yeah, I've not been to the cinema for a while. Last thing I saw at the cinema was Terrifier 3.
That was good. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, I just love the fact. I don't think they're great films, but they're fun films, and I just love the
plot. Yeah, the plot was like so. I'm like, this is literally. It's just a slasher pick. Like, I don't know why. Like, it's not that I don't like it, but it's interesting that those ones have such a big, like, it made how much money? It made so much money, and I'm like, it's good, but it's just like,
the most successful
clown makeup.
Yeah, I think I just love the fact that people are excited about a horror villain again and want to go see it at the cinema. So if that's a success, I'm fine with that. And how many more are they going to make? Is it 2 more or 1 more? I know there's definitely going to be another one.
Oh yeah, I think they'll make those forever. It'll be like Friday the 13th. And I mean, if they keep making money, and like, how much did it make versus how much it cost to make? It probably cost like $2 million to make, and it made like 80 million or something.
The most successful. I don't know if it's classed as independent, but the most successful film of its kind, without doubt, in the cinema. So yeah, I enjoyed it. But as long as they outgore the next one, they're onto a win-win, because that's all people speak about, particular scenes in the film.
Yeah, I need to rewatch. I kind of want to binge like all 3 of those and binge. I want to rewatch Smile 1 and then Smile 2 and then The Human Centipede. That's a good, like, it's fun to just binge like a trilogy of movies like that. I'm binging The Sopranos because I was sick And I don't know why, just for some reason I thought I want to rewatch The Sopranos when I was 6. So I started binging it, and now I'm not sick, but I'm still just trying to finish it. And
well, how many seasons is there of that? I've never seen it.
6.
So
You've never seen Sopranos?
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's not for some people don't like the mobster. If you like mobster movies and TV shows, I mean, it's the best because to me, it's just, I think what makes any good TV show or movie, well, not necessarily, you can have a movie without good characters, but I think with the TV show, for me to watch repeatedly and follow this, like, it has to have really interesting characters.
Oh,
and
gotcha.
like Breaking Bad, great character. Like, I'm so fascinated by the characters. And I think Sopranos, like, I'm just so interested in these characters. Like, what are these guys going to do? Like, Tony Soprano is one of the greatest characters. I mean, and it's not just the typical mobster. There's a complexity because he's like going to therapy and stuff,
Right.
and he's a family man, and it's an interesting dynamic, I think.
I'm so late to TV shows though. I mean, me and my wife, we didn't finish Breaking Bad or even start watching Breaking Bad until maybe 2 years ago, something like that.
Did you like it?
Oh, loved it. Yeah. And like Sons of Anarchy, we were pretty late to that.
I haven't yet. I only watched like the first 6 or 7 episodes, and then I kind of dropped off. Should I pick that one back up?
Oh,
Is it pretty good?
It's fun. Like you're saying about The Sopranos, once you're invested in those characters, it's game over, mate.
That's what it is. See, yeah, I think, and sometimes with the TV show, it takes time for you to get, like, the first time I saw The Sopranos, like, this is going to sound terrible, but I just thought, I was like, wait, which guys? Because like they're all like fat Italian guys, and I'm like, wait, who's this guy again? Like, I couldn't keep the characters straight. But now that I've seen it, before, now the second time, I'm like, okay, this guy's that guy. That it's not as confusing. But
I bet it's almost like watching episodes for the first time sometimes when now you know.
Oh yeah, I don't remember. It was like 10 years ago,
right?
And I can't remember why I wanted to rewatch it. I think because I saw a clip or something, and I was like, oh, that's a good show. It's almost like I'd rather rewatch a really good show than to try a new show that's like mediocre,
Yeah. I think I'm not really good at TV shows. So, I mean, Breaking Bad, Sons of Anarchy, Californication, we loved, but that's going back a long time.
I love that one. Yeah. That's what was so cool about David Duchovny.
Yeah.
And I'm not an X-Files fan, really. Like, I mean, I think I saw some episodes, but
X-Files must have been huge when you were growing up, though, right?
X-Files?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was funny. There was my roommate in college. He was friends with this girl that was literally obsessed with X-Files. Like, she had all the DVDs. She had like whatever memorabilia you could get or prop or whatever. Like, she had everything. She was completely obsessed with that. Like, that's like was her identity from what I remember. Like, that's all I could tell you about this girl was she loved the X-Files. So, but I never got really all that into it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's something I would like to go back and revisit. I love Twin Peaks. I'm a big Twin Peaks fan.
Okay, so I think I think it's Twin Peaks. My brother lives in North Bend, and I think they filmed some of that there in the cafe. I just had breakfast at that cafe when I was visiting him, and I think that's the one from Twin Peaks. I think that's the show. Yeah, it's the what is the cafe called? I want to say it's like, now I forgot the name of it, but I'm pretty sure it's the main cafe from that show.
Oh, very cool. How long ago was that?
Just like I don't know, like 3 weeks ago or something. I don't know. I don't know if I posted a picture. I should post the picture. Right. We took a picture in front of the sign, but I need to rewatch that show too. I think I tried to watch. Is that show? It's not dated though, right? Like, if you rewatch it today, it still holds it.
Well, I mean, it was weird back in the day. you got to be in the right frame of mind. I mean, they did the Twin Peaks: The Return a few years ago, which was even weirder.
I think that's why I started to rewatch the original, because I was like, oh, they're making the new one. I should rewatch the original, because I never other than I think maybe I watched the movie Fire Walk with Me or whatever.
Right? Yeah. Oh, it's all batshit crazy.
David Lynch is a weird guy, man. I loved that movie Mulholland Drive. I thought it was so fucking weird and like, but I loved it. Yeah. What was what's the one? Is it David Lynch where the one with Bill Pullman, Lost Highway? Is that David Lynch?
Yeah. That's David Lynch film. Yeah.
That is such a fucking weird movie where the guy's like, call me, I'm there right now. Remember that? That was such one of the weirdest scenes of any movie. but it was like, you'd think it would be really stupid the way I describing this, but like the way he does it, and I think didn't that actor like actually like kill his wife? Like,
I don't know.
pick like a real murderer. What's his name? Robert something or other. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, David Lynch is great. I love seeing him in interviews and some of the weird stuff he does online. Did you see that he had like his entire YouTube channel was like little video clips of him telling the time each morning?
No, that's fucking. Has he ever done Rogan? That would be an interesting.
That would be
conversation.
cool, actually. Yeah.
Rogan just had Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avery, the screenwriter from Pulp Fiction. I didn't watch that, but I bet that's a good conversation. I don't know how much they talk about Pulp Fiction, but
I want to get Tarantino into our video store because he's got like that video. What is it? Video Archives podcast or something like that. I'd love to get him.
You think that's a possibility?
Well, never say never, mate. It's out there now.
Have you had any celebrities come through the store that
we've had a few people come in actually? I mean, we do the sign-ins and stuff. So we had Lawrence at the weekend. We had when we opened up, we had a guy called Spencer Wilding who played Darth Vader in Rogue One. You know, the Star Wars prequel.
Yeah, love that. That's one of my favorite Star Wars movies.
Yeah. Who else we had? We've got a friend of mine who's a producer in Derby, which is like a big town, our good friend Dominic Burns. So he knows a few people and he loves the store. Dom's been a massive supporter of the shop. So if anyone comes into town, he'll say, "Oh, you got to come to see this video store." So he brought the director Johannes Roberts over to the store. Now Johannes he did the Strangers sequel. Did you ever see that? Pray at Night. Did you ever see that one?
Is that the second one or there was a new one that just came out? I didn't see that.
It was the second one, which has got that really cool swimming pool scene, which everyone says is one of the greatest scenes of horror of any time. So Johannes
I need to rewatch that.
Yeah,
I did see that. I feel like I saw the first two a long time ago. I know the first one was like Liv Tyler, right?
Yeah, the first one is amazing. So I mean, any kind of sequel to that, it's like you're going to struggle to hold up. But I thought Pray at Night was good. So Johannes directed that, and he did the 47 Meters Down movies, the ones with the shark. I don't know if you saw those films or not.
I think so. Yeah, I'd have to check it out again. But that's awesome. So what are you guys open like every day? Like, could people they could just pop in, right? Without.
Yeah, we just do weekends because I mean it's literally just a labor of love for me and Chris. We don't make any. I say it's the worst business plan of anything. We don't make any money from it.
Do you lose money though? Because you got to like pay for the place.
No. That's the cool thing because when we started it, Chris was running his shop downstairs. So we as long as we threw him a couple of quid, a few dollars a month for rent, he was more than happy because it was just empty storage space. So it was fine for like a year and a half. Then Chris decided to close the store downstairs. It just wasn't feasible for him. I mean, I'm sure it's the same in America. It's so hard for a brick and mortar store to stay open these days. Everything's so expensive. So he decided to close. So we were like, oh shit, are we going to have to close as well? And luckily we agreed that with the landlord that we could split the rent. He said, oh, if you want to carry on renting upstairs, we'll come to an agreement with it. And it was still a lot of money. So at that point we went to Patreon and started a Patreon page, because I think we've built up quite a nice little community of people who support the shop, and said, look, this is the situation. We want to keep it going. If you want to be part of the Patreon group, consider signing up for like exclusive, as Patreon works, you know how all that works. And we've got about 50 Patreons now, and a lot of that goes towards the rent and expenses. So it's a weight off our shoulders. We still have to obviously make some money for everything else, because all the utility bills and all the other bills that come along. But as long as we can cover it each month, we're more than happy, because it's the people we meet, same as podcasts. It's the coolest thing, same as being podcast, same as being in a band. Regardless of the success of any of this, the thing you're going to take from it is the experiences you have and the people you meet. That's what you're going to take from it at the end of the day. And that's what we're doing. That's why I do the podcast. That's why I do the shop. And that's why I do the band, really.
Wow. That's awesome. I mean, but the band and stuff like that helps pay the bills, right? Or how do you, I mean, otherwise, how do you pay? Like, you don't have like a day job, right? I mean, this is all your labor of love, right?
Yeah. I think we spoke about it before. I mean, I quit my job around COVID time and I've been working at a print company for 20 years. Excuse me. And yeah, I still do graphic design work and print work for people. So that's pretty much what my main income is. But it's just nice that I can. It's nice but exhausting. I think the thing that makes me most tired is shifting gears in my head. Right, I'm in band mode today. Right, I'm in video store mode today. Right, I'm in podcast mode today. Which keeps things interesting, but yeah, it's a lot of shifting gears.
That is true. You're right, though. Like when I look at the podcast, the experiences, like it's been the people that I've met. I mean, it's cool to like have on the David Duchovnys and the Don Dokkens to just have that interview. And like, as my girlfriend says, like, you'll always have that experience for the rest of your life, which is very cool. But also like, it's been really fun to meet like people like you and Darren and Adika and Clint Schweitzer and like all these other guys that I've made like really cool. Like, I mean, I feel like you and I would be like way better friends. Like if we actually lived close to each other, I think we'd hang out all the time, but you know, obviously we can.
I mean, how cool is that? I mean, we met up in Nashville a couple of years ago.
That was fun. That was so
crazy,
fun,
right?
We need to do that again. Are you going to the what is that, Rockin' Pod this year?
Rockin' Pod. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for it, mate. I don't know if I'll have a stall or anything like that, but I've blocked out the dates in my calendar, and I'm just waiting to see what other guests they announce and stuff like that. And I'd just like to go there again because I just enjoyed those few days. I'm the same with any new place I go to. I mean, you travel a lot, so I don't know if you have a similar experience to me, but if I go somewhere new, the first couple of days I get really panicky. I'm like, oh, I've not researched enough. I don't know where I am. I don't know where to go. And then by the end of it, I'm starting to feel at home, and it's like, shit, I've got to come home now.
Oh shit, yeah.
And that's how I felt in Nashville. I was like, I was finally getting my feel of where everything was, and then it's time to come home.
I know Nashville is fun. I've been there a few times now. It is a lot of fun. I think it'd be fun to do a festival or something with you. Like go to like one of those, like what is it? The one there's one in Nashville or in Tennessee. I think it's called like Music on the Mountain or something like that.
Right.
Might be in Gatlinburg, but that's a fun town too. And there's like it's a lot of those like kind of 80s bands and stuff. Like
oh, nice.
It'd be fun to go to a concert with you. Like I always wanted to do the cruises. Have you ever done one of the cruises?
I've never done one. I've never done one, man. I'd like to do one.
We should do that, man. We should do one of them. There's the Monsters of Rock cruise, but then there's like another one that's like just like an 80s cruise, and then there's another one that's like shipwrecked or something. There's like a few of them.
Yeah.
And
there's a few festivals coming up in like Key West and things like that now, which seem to be really cool. I think the last Key West one, I think there was like Bret Michaels, Enough's Enough, Lit, Bowling for Soup, all on one. I'm like, holy shit, this is like my dream lineup.
Yeah, that would be fun. Yeah, I just saw Bret Michaels and Pete got hooked me up or whatever, and so I had a great spot to watch. I mean, I've seen him a couple times now, and it's fun to see the solo stuff because it's it's like. But I was talking to Pete about how they should expand the set list and play some of the deeper cuts. Like that for a guy like me that's like a true fan, like that would be fun.
That's what we're going to do with it. That's why you got to come see the Poison tribute band. That's what we're going to do next year. We're going to add some more deep cuts.
Yeah. That is awesome. I would totally love to see
So
that.
Tell Me Why and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, I love, or even like a native tongue song. Can you play those ones?
Rob, our singer, won't do it. Dave, our guitarist, his favorite guitarist is Richie Kotzen. So he's always playing Fire and Ice at soundcheck and things like that. But I don't think we'll ever do any native tongue stuff.
What about Crack a Smile?
I'd be up for it.
Ones on there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a great album, man. It's a great album.
I think that's fun. That'd be cool if you guys came to the States. I mean, I know that's kind of a tall order to try to but I mean, like that Yacht Rock Review, I mean, they're freaking opening for Train. I was like, dude, this is like so cool when you can take a tribute cover band to that level. You know what I mean? Like,
well, Steel Panther set the bar for that, really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like maybe you guys should do the Poison one, but then also do another one that's just like general 80s covers and just
I'd be up for that. Yeah.
And
there's
like
a few bands over here do it, but
yeah,
I'd like to give it a shot.
Especially if you focus more on the melodics, like the Danger, Bon Jovi, Trickster kind of stuff. Like, I don't think there's as many doing that stuff. So that'd be fun.
I mean, we spoke about it before though. That kind of music was never in fashion over here, like Trickster and Danger. It's unreal to think how different it was over here. compared to what you guys on the radio. Here's Harry, still wants to hear Life Loves a Tragedy in the Poison set. It might happen, mate. It might happen.
That would be cool. Well, I definitely got to get over to Europe at some point, and hopefully it will coincide with you doing a show of some sorts, either in Let
We'll
Loose.
book one regardless.
Okay, or just like, could you ever do like those jam? Do they have like the jam nights and stuff over there where you can go just get up and jam it with certain people?
They have like open mic nights and jam nights and things like that, but nothing on the level of Tyson's Rare Hair nights, which we went to.
That was cool. Yeah, that was so cool. That was fun. I forgot about that. Yeah, that was a good. And also, I think, oh my God, we had too many drinks. That, you know what it was, is we forgot to eat dinner. We didn't eat dinner. We're like, oh, we'll eat at the show, and then there was no food there, but they had drinks. So our dinner was drinks, and then we did shots with Ace, and that got a little. Good thing we Ubered, because that got a little wild. Yeah, it was fun. Well, let me know if you ever definitely come back to Phoenix, and hopefully I will get over to Europe at some point. Maybe
please do, mate.
Maybe that'll be my birthday present to myself this year. I got to go there eventually. So, well, cool. We did like almost an hour and a half. You said if you could get me talking for that long, well, I did it. So
you're good at this, mate. You're good at this.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm great. Well, thanks again so much for doing this. So again, we'll promote.
Hey.
You're in the Poison band. You're in Let Loose. You got the Straight to Video podcast. You got the 80s video shop.
That's
anything else?
That's good. That's good.
Okay. Follow you on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the usual suspects. Cool. Thanks,
nice
Rob.
man. Have a Merry Christmas, mate.
You too.
Alrighty.
All right. I'll talk to you later.